Hi, everybody. Crystal Hines here. I am going to talk to you about how to use the 6 F's. And the 6 F's are a way to remember how to begin to get to know parts. Okay, so the IFS Institute and Dick Schwartz created this concept of the 6 F's. And so this is not my content, although I did make it pretty and I'm here to teach you about it, especially in the context of IFS-informed EMDR, when we have these protective parts that are coming up, rightfully so, because they have some kind of concerns about getting into the EMDR work. And so the 6 F's offers us a way to begin to get to know those parts. And if you are new to me, again, my name is Crystal Hines, and I am the founder of Align Therapy and Consultation, which is a group practice based out of Longmont, Colorado. And here at Align, 100% of what we do is support therapists. So supporting therapists to thrive and sustain the work that we do. And I do this in a variety of different ways. And one of those is through teaching IFS and EMDR and providing consultation spaces and trainings for that. So I personally love both of these modalities so much. I've done deep dives into each of them. And so I'm an IMDRIA approved trainer and an IFS Institute approved clinical consultant and level 2 certified. And while I am not an official trainer with the IFS Institute, I care a lot about making IFS more accessible to therapists. And so here is one way that I do that. So back to the 6 F's. So again, in the context of, let's say, our EMDR work, or you're aware you've gotten better at being a parts detector, and you're aware that parts are present, and you want to begin to get to know them. And so that's where the 6 F's come in as a way to do that. Those first 3 are kind of the beginning process of getting to know parts. And so first you want to get permission from the client and their system and say, would it be okay to get to know this part today? In IFS, we always ask permission. And let's assume they say yes. And so then you're going to guide them to find the part in or around their body. So you're going to say, can you just take a moment and sense in and find that part who's feeling angry, let's say. Can you find that part in or around your body? And just let me know what you notice and how you sense it. So they're going to tell you what they're noticing, and then you're going to guide them to focus in on the part. Really just let them be with the part. And so that's language like, okay, so you're noticing that there's some tightness in your chest. Just really let yourself focus in on that energy, really without any agenda, but just, noticing and being curious about that. Just see what else comes as you focus in on that sensation. Are there any other sensory details that you're aware of, or any other ways that this part might be communicating with you? I also might use this time, the find and focus, as a way to just like intentionally tell the part, like, hey, we're here to get to know you and spend some time with you, and kind of invite them to come forward. Okay, so flesh it out is F number 3. And this is where you're really wanting to understand the part's story, their function, what they do, who they are. This is where let's assume that it's a protective part that we're working with, because those are usually the parts that we're aware of in EMDR that are coming up and maybe blocking some of the work we're doing. And this is where you would interview that protective part. And I have a whole other handout and video about how to interview the part, some of the things that you could say. But essentially, you just want to understand how it is protecting the client, what exactly they do, why they do it, how long have they been doing it, any other just details about who the part is, how old they are, what do they look like, do they have any relationships with other parts? So it's really your time to just really get to know the part. Number 3 is flesh it out. Okay, so then at some point, you want to get a sense of how your client is feeling toward the part. This question, number 4, how do you feel toward the part, is a very important and very intentional way of assessing for self energy in the moment. Now, we always have access to self energy, and even just like a little drop of self energy is all that we need to do these next steps. Okay, so I'm not talking about like, I am 100% open-hearted and compassionate toward the part. No, it could be like, I feel neutral and open to it. Okay, it could be just a little bit. So that question, how do you feel toward the part? If they say anything like, I feel neutral, open, curious, interested, maybe they have bigger feelings of, I feel tender or love or compassion. That's great too. But anything at all that sounds like self energy, this is where being a parts detector is important. Again, you want to listen to what they say and see, is that a part that is coming up, or is that self energy? And you get better at this over time. But let's say that they are feeling open and interested to the part when you ask that question. The very next thing you say is number 5, befriend. Okay, so you're going to say, great, let that part know that you're feeling really open toward it. And notice how they respond to that. Okay, so anytime you ask, how do you feel toward the part, and they say anything that's self-energy, the very next thing you do is you extend that self-energy to the part and you drop into a relational space. In IFS, building that self-to-part relationship is so essential and so healing. So those go together, feel and befriend. Now, if you asked, how do you feel toward the part, and they're like, ugh, I'm so tired of that part coming in here and getting in the way. I just want to do EMDR today. Like, I'm so annoyed with it. You know, you're listening. Those are some big emotions, some feelings, a reaction toward the part. That just means there's another part there. And there are lots of choices with how to work with that. If another part comes up, my style is to turn toward that part. And so I would say, oh, that sounds like there's another part here that's feeling annoyed by this one. Is that right? And then I spend a little time like turning toward the part who's feeling annoyed, see if there's more that they want to say about that. Let them know what our intention is to getting to know this other one. See if they'd be willing to maybe hang out and watch. I never ask parts to step back or step aside. That's not my style. It does not work in my system. My parts are like, you better not ask me to step aside. But that's, my own system. So I always say, would this part be willing to, hang out or sit next to you and kind of watch and give a little space so that we can get to know this one we started with. Now, if they won't, and they are coming on with, strong energy, then you might switch your focus. Now your focus is on this other part. So in IFS, you always want to turn toward the part with the biggest need, the biggest energy, the biggest protection that's coming up. But you want to be intentional and say, like, I know we were working with this part, this other one is coming in, and I think it's important that we spend some time with it, but I promise that we'll be back to be with you too in the next session or whenever you can do that. But you don't want to leave those parts hanging. So this gets a little tricky. So you might switch to that other part and get to know them. Then you'd go back through the F's again if you had to switch to another part. And IFS is very flowy, right? It's not a rigid step by step by step. So Anyway, let's say you were able to do feel toward and befriend. You spent a little time in that relational energy, and then you want to ask what the part is concerned will happen if it stops doing its job. And it's good to ask this question toward like the end of these 6 Fs, because once there's some self energy on board and they can feel the presence of self, then the part likely feels more safe and open to share some of the vulnerability underneath, to share some of the concerns that it has and the fears that it has, which then just allows you as the therapist and the client, hopefully, but especially you as a therapist, to understand, like, oh my goodness, of course you come in and make the client check out and dissociate because you're terrified that they're going to be stuck in depression and despair, right? Like whatever it is that they are concerned about, it's going to click for you as a therapist and check in about how you feel. But often you're going to it's just going to be an aha moment. It's going to be clarity. It's going to be openness, compassion. And then you can extend that understanding to the part, and then client can also do that. And then the three of you can work together to collaborate with what do we need to do so it feels safe enough to move forward into doing our EMDR work. And I have another handout about that too, about collaborative problem solving is what I call it, with these parts who come in and block. And so yeah, so those are the 6 Fs, and kind of how to flow through that. And I hope this was helpful, and check out my other resources as well. Thank you.